Okay, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Allahumma salli wa sallam wa barak ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een. Alhamdulillah. It is September 22nd on Friday. Inshallah, we're in month Muharram al-Lisan of Imam Muhammad Mawlud. We're now in a section that is dealing with, starts about divulging someone's secret. And he says, وَبَثُّ سِرِّهِ وَجَسُّ خَبْرِهِ وَمَدْحُهُ إِلَّا لِأَمْنِ ضَرَرِهِ. It is prohibited to divulge someone's secret or spy on someone. So we're going to look at them one at a time. So this first section is about being told a secret by someone and then telling others about it. That this is prohibited to do. And divulging a secret is considered khiyana or treachery, and it is haram. It is prohibited. If harm particularly is caused by it. If harm is caused by it, it is definitely forbidden. If harm is not caused, then there's a different issue with that. So, if harm is caused, whether one understands that the person who told you the secret wants it to be kept private, that's when harm occurs, because the person, when you understand it, that they want you to keep it a secret and then you don't, and you divulge it to somebody or you tell somebody about it, then obviously they told you for a reason and then they would be harmed. So in general, the scholars mention that if somebody were to come up to you, look right and left, and then tell you something, that means immediately becomes an amana or a trust, right? So if someone were talking to you, they lower their voice, that's a sign this is secret. Or not just secret, but private, okay? So you can say that it's either a secret or private conversation. So if someone were to tell you, hey, I've been telling you something, don't tell anybody. That's obvious, that's very clear, that you're not allowed to tell anybody. If somebody says, I have a secret I'd like to tell you, but you cannot tell anybody, it becomes an obligation as a Muslim that you cannot tell anybody. Or someone to ask you about it, you have to say you don't know about it. It's an obligation. So how then does this become a secret or a trust? That's another way of saying, because it's not always a secret. How you guys think of secrets is when someone tells you something, they say, I know a secret. But in Islam, it's more than that. It's like an amana, right? Al-majalisu bil-amana. Like majalis, sitting in gatherings or having certain sittings with people are trust. So unless what they're telling you is public information and they don't care who you tell, right? Then you can tell whoever you want. But then there's signs that indicates they don't want you to tell anybody. One of them being, if somebody looks right and left, make sure no one's looking, then they tell you something. That obviously means it's private. If they tell you, I'm about to tell you something, it's just between you and I. So consider these words. When someone tells you, between you and I, that means it's between you and that person. You cannot tell anybody about it. Hey, I want to tell you something, but it's on a DL, it's on a down low. I didn't tell you something, I don't want you to tell anybody. However they come about, whatever words they use, becomes private conversation, not allowed to divulge that to somebody else. Obviously, unless that person is telling you they're going to do some harm. Hey, don't tell anybody, but I'm going to go kill so-and-so. Obviously, you cannot hold that secret, right? You need to report them and you need to get them in trouble, because great harm will occur, right? And you have to stop harm. If someone is going to do something that is dangerous, that's an exception. But somebody tells you, hey, don't tell anybody, but so-and-so is going to propose to so-and-so. Usually this one occurs. Don't tell anybody, but I just got this job, I don't want anybody to know. Like that. Okay, so be careful about relaying secrets or trust to other than whoever it was meant to be. If it was two people in that gathering, then it stays within those two people. Otherwise, the person that divulges the secret or tells somebody else becomes an oppressor. So one is obliged to keep this secret and is not allowed to mention it to anybody. I think we see that this happens a lot. Someone will tell you something and they say, please don't tell anybody. And then you'll tell someone, but tell them, this is a secret. No one's supposed to know it, but I'm only going to tell you. Right? Happens a lot. You're not allowed to do that. Right? So, any questions on that? And then the next one is spying on someone. وَلَا تَجَسَّسُوا, as the Quran mentions, do not spy on one another. Spying is when you have a suspicion about something, and Allah Ta'ala mentions avoid suspicion. Because once you have a suspicion about somebody, then you kind of want to follow after them or look into the matter more deeper to find something with them. Like, in other words, you only spy on someone because you have a suspicion about them, right? So you have a doubt about somebody, you're suspicious about them, then you want to find out more. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to avoid dhann, avoid suspicion. And I'm going to look this up one second because the order of those verses is important. This is in a chapter in the Quran called Surah Al-Hujurat, and it's called the chapter of Akhlaq because it teaches the believers great etiquette. And most of what I'm covering in this class, actually, you could say is taken from that. Okay? So let me just get that. So we're going to read this together real quick. So this chapter covers a few things that we did last week. For example, this chapter mentions about not raising your voice over the voice of the Prophet ﷺ. And those are in the first classes. We mentioned that includes Quran or Hadith or knowledge of Islam, because it's considered to be speech of Allah and His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And then it mentions that if news comes to you from a sinner, to verify that. You remember last week we talked about how you cannot relay everything that you hear. You have to verify if news is true. Just because someone tells you doesn't mean it's always true. Especially if a fasiq or a sinner, wrongdoer, comes and gives you news, Allah is telling you, فَتَبَيَّنُوا, make sure that it's true. And the verse here, this also covers mockery, which we talked about. Do not make fun of one another, nor mock one another. And this is the verse we're looking at. يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا اجْتَنِبُوا كَثِيرًا مِنَ الظَّنِّ إِنَّ بَعْضَ الظَّنِّ إِثْمٌ وَلَا تَجَسَّسُوا. So, O you who believe, and the verse goes on, avoid suspicion as much as possible. In some cases, it is a sin. وَلَا تَجَسَّسُوا, and do not spy on one another. وَلَا يَغْضَبْ بَعْضُكُمْ بَعْضًا. Because now look how it goes on. First, avoid suspicion, right? Don't spy. That's the next word, right? يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا اجْتَنِبُوا كَثِيرًا مِنَ الظَّنِّ إِنَّ بَعْضَ الظَّنِّ إِثْمٌ. Some suspicion. وَلَا تَجَسَّسُوا. Because once you have a suspicion, then what you're going to do is spy. So you can cut off spying by not being suspicious of people, not being entertaining ideas that this person is, I bet you anything, he's an alcoholic. I bet you anything, he's a druggie. I bet you anything, this guy goes and parties on Friday nights. I bet you anything, this guy's like that, right? That's the first when suspicion starts on people. Then once the suspicion happens, people start to spy, right? What are all the means of spying? There's a lot of ways people can spy on one another to find out. Maybe they'll track you, maybe they'll ask where you went, maybe they'll call about you and ask, right? They'll do different things to find out where were you, what were you doing. Yeah.
Well, like, what if your job is
Well, that's different because they have to, a detective investigates crimes. Their job is different. This is for normal people, right, who don't have that. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us to avoid this because suspicion leads to spying. And then what does Allah say next? وَلَا يَغْضَبْ بَعْضُكُمْ بَعْضًا. And then after you have a suspicion, now you spy, what are you going to do next? You're going to talk about what happened to other people. You're going to start backbiting. Okay, now, وَلَا يَغْتَبْ. يَغْتَبْ is ghiba. We spoke about that last week. Definition of ghiba. Ghiba or backbiting. Speaking about somebody behind their back. Is to mention them or mention something about them or their belongings or children or whatever they possess, whatever is linked to them, in a way that had they been there, they would dislike that you mentioned that. Okay? They would dislike, if they were there, what you mentioned hurts them, upsets them. For that reason, actually, some scholars consider even praise to be backbiting. Because by that technical definition, if someone praises you and you're not there, that might actually upset you. You see that? Normal people don't do that. But there are people that, if you praise them when they're not there, they get upset. Why'd you say good things about me? A'udhu billah. It's not true. They get upset. But nowadays, almost everybody don't mind if somebody praises you behind your back, but they won't mind if you criticize somebody behind them. You know, for example, Abdullah, this guy's horrible. He does this, this, and this, and that. And if he walks in the room, you change the conversation, you avoid it, and you pretend you weren't talking about it. Because he said something that wasn't good about them. And then Allah mentions, would any of you like to eat the flesh of your brother, of his dead brother? No, you would abhor it. So fear Allah, for Allah is all forgiving and most merciful. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives an incredible reason and also a scary description that whoever does that, it's like they're eating the dead flesh of their brother. Nobody would like that. This is a very ugly thing, a horrible thing. So now we get into a question of why then are people backbiting? Because of a lack of taqwa. Because of a lack of, number one, they're heedless. Yeah, go ahead.
I need to go play a house. I'll be right back.
Okay, inshallah. So now what people are doing in this case is they're either not aware what backbiting is, and some people do have a misconception. There are some people that think it is not backbiting if you tell the truth, right? If you speak the truth about somebody behind their back, that's not backbiting. But if you tell a lie, that's backbiting, and that's not true. Okay? I want you to note that. Backbiting, ghiba, is only if what you said is truth. In other words, it is only ghiba if what you said was true. If what you said about somebody is not true, that is called buhtan, or in English, calumny, slander. Right? So you actually lied about the person. So person's not there, you said something about him. Worse than saying something without his presence is you actually lied about them. That's even worse. Right? For example, you say, oh man, this guy Abdullah, he goes to parties on Saturday, I've seen him, he does drugs and he does this, this and that, or whatever thing you want to mention. And then the poor guy doesn't even do any of that. That's even worse. Okay? That's even worse. So do not divulge secrets, do not spy on one another. The next section is praising someone. It is prohibited to praise another person unless one is sure that there will be not any harm. Unless you are sure that there's no harm. Usually the scholars, they mention that what is praise? Praise is when you tell somebody, MashaAllah, you are such an amazing Muslim, right? MashaAllah, you're the most righteous person I've ever seen, right? MashaAllah, I have this feeling you're going to be in a high place in paradise, or this, and that. So, anytime that you praise somebody, it is not allowed to praise anybody unless you know that there's no harm. In general, there will be harm. because most people are complacent, and when you praise them, they'll be more lazy and more lax. Now, I want to, before we move to that, so basically, med, praise. He says that when we praise somebody and we say good things about them or honor them, this is only if there is no fear of harm. The fears and the harms could be from ujub or vanity. What does that mean? That means the person you're saying good things about starts to believe that they're exalted, they're really righteous, and they don't see that from Allah. They kind of see their own self. It's vanity. They start to feel within themselves, mashallah, I am pretty cool. I am pretty righteous. I feel really good about myself, you know. I'm very happy I'm a really good Muslim, right? So they start to get this vanity. And arrogance. Another thing that could happen is why it's prohibited not to praise people is if you start to praise them, they will start to feel that they're better than others, right? So arrogance could creep in, and the Prophet ﷺ said, whoever is arrogant is not going to go to paradise. Whoever has in their heart 1 atom's worth of arrogance will not go to paradise. So if you think you're better than your brother, that's arrogance. You won't be going to Jannah for that. Arrogance is the worst sin, and it is so hidden that no one knows if they have arrogance or not. Right? The difference between ujub and kibr in the Arabic language, and scholars of the science, they say, ujub doesn't take another person. It's just the person himself with God. He sees himself as, oh, I'm so pious, I'm this, and that. Kibr, you need another person as an object. You cannot have kibr if you're on Mars by yourself. You can have ujub, but you can't have kibr. Kibr requires another person. You see the difference? Kibr requires another person. Because kibr yatakabbar alayh. It's a person that feels better than another person. So you need the other person. I'll tell you guys some very, very scary stuff. There's 2 ways of saying this sentence. Whoever feels that they're better than someone is arrogant. Right? It's arrogant. One of my dear beloved brothers and teachers, he mentioned it like this. He said, if you do not believe all others are better than you, then you're mutakabbir. You have arrogance. What does that mean? It's the same thing. It's saying when someone thinks they're better than somebody else, that's arrogance. But if the same sentence could be said, if you don't believe you are worse than everybody else, you're arrogant. Why? Because you're like, well, I'm better than the 98 people except those 2 people. You still think you're better than somebody. You still believe you are better than somebody else. You're arrogant. This is what Shaitan had against Adam alayhi salam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created Adam. He told everyone to bow down to him within the angels. Everyone bowed down but Shaitan. What was Shaitan doing there? He was righteous before this condemnation. He worshipped Allah, so he reached a high level of honor and respect. May Allah curse him. And then, when Allah ordered everyone to bow down to Adam, his kibr, his arrogance, manifested. And as a manifestation, he refused to bow down, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala punished him with eternal fire for being arrogant in the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala over Adam. And when he was asked, he said, I'm better than him. I'm better than him. And I'll talk about that in a second. You guys have some questions? Go ahead.
Like, for example, if you get, like, better than someone, like, in a test or, like,
This is when you feel you are better in the deen. If you feel you're a better basketball player or you're a better swimmer, this is matters of the religion, not matters in the worldly aspects. Okay?
so, like, that doesn't go with confidence.
You can be confident. There's a difference between confidence, because confidence is when you feel you're not threatened, you don't have fear, you believe in yourself to do something. That's not arrogance. Arrogance is when you come to pray in a mosque, you sit next to someone, you say, I'm better than this person. That's arrogance. When you walk into a gathering and you feel that you're better than some, you're better Muslim than some. Why is that? Well, I'll give you some examples. And this is kind of not the topic, because the topic for this class is what's haram on the tongue, not on the heart. So this is kind of divulging off the point, but why it's prohibited to praise someone is because you could put kibr in their heart. You see that? You can say, I had a dream of you, you're in a high place in paradise, you're so amazing. I mean, sometimes dreams could be good, but dreams could also be used to further delude you. Okay? So what they say is, praise may cause the one person being praised to be lazy, the one praised becoming also arrogant, and satisfied with himself. Satisfied with himself. What does that mean? Ar-ridha bi nafsihi. A Muslim who is content with himself is the Muslim who feels, I don't need any improvement. I'm a pretty good Muslim. Anyone who thinks like that is on the bottom level of spirituality. Okay? Aslu maradu kulli shay fi qulub min al-qulub. The asl, the foundation of all the diseases of the heart is a person who thinks they don't really need improvement, they're righteous. Let me give you an example. The greatest of the companions by consensus is Abu Bakr as-Siddiq. Nobody's better than Abu Bakr by consensus. You remember Aqid al-Tahawi? Nobody's better than Abu Bakr. After the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ in the Ummah, it's Abu Bakr by consensus. What did he say? Abu Bakr, he felt that he was not better than a single Muslim. When he became the Khalifa, he said, I've been selected to be an Imam over you, but I'm not the best of you. In other words, I'm the worst of you. This is the best of all of the creation after the Prophet ﷺ and ranking in this Ummah. Sayyidina Umar ibn al-Khattab was also the highest of the companions after Abu Bakr. He constantly was worried if he's a hypocrite, if he even believed, if he was even true to this religion. And this doubt of his constantly worried him. And he constantly had worry if he was even righteous. And the scholars, they mention, that's why if this is shocking, I'm glad you're shocked, because this is the level of delusion of Muslims who do not have knowledge. They're people who think they're righteous because of their knowledge. That's shaitan just having the day with them, a field day with them. Okay? The scholars, they say, the closer you are to Allah, the more you begin to lose yourself. The closer you are to Allah, the more you see yourself insignificant. The more you see yourself humbled before Allah. There's a prophet of Allah named Yusuf alayhi salam. He became so close to Allah, so righteous, that he asked Allah to make him die as a Muslim. As a Muslim. Number one, that shows the maqam of dying as a Muslim is extremely high. But two, out of his humbleness, he said, make me die as a Muslim and be included amongst the Muslims. He's a prophet. They're better than everyone. Right? They don't commit a sin. But the closer you are to Allah, the closer and closer you are, the more you start to not see yourself. The more humble you become. Even the angels of God, they're angels that worshipped Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from day one of their creation until the day of judgment. They're angels that went in sajda to Allah until the day of judgment. And on the day of judgment, they raise their head, they say, Subhanak, glory be to you. We didn't worship you what was due to you. Can you imagine? Maybe they did this for billions of years, where they didn't commit a single sin, the angels, not a single sin. They bowed down in prostration the whole time. On the day of judgment, they lift their head finally, and they say, glory be to you, we didn't worship you what you deserved. It's humbleness. Any Muslim who thinks he's better than another person is absolutely deluded. Because number one, they have no guarantee that they're a true believer. Number two, they have no guarantee if Allah accepted a single one of their good actions. A single one of their good actions. They don't know that. They have no guarantee. They have no email from Allah. They have no revelation from an angel. They have no guarantee. Number three, it may be that at the moment of your death, Allah takes away your faith. Shaitan will come and he'll try to trick you and to steal from you your religion. He'll come and he'll try to sell other people's religion on you at the moment of death. It's considered one of the toughest trials of the human being, at the moment of their death. How do you know you're going to survive those questioning? How do you know you're going to even die as a Muslim? Yeah, right now you may be praying. There's thousands and thousands of Muslims. Today they're praying, tomorrow they're lost and gone. They have doubt about this religion. So how do you know, what guarantee do you have that you will be on this path? That should keep you humble. And that should keep you afraid. And that should keep you worried. And that should keep you constantly making dua. Not once in a while. Constantly making dua. Oh Allah, make me die as a Muslim. Make me die as a Muslim. It's the highest honor. Make me die as a Muslim. Can any of you guarantee me I'm going to die as a Muslim? No, you can't. Can I guarantee any of you that you'll live till tonight and you'll die as a Muslim? No, I cannot. These things are not in our control or possession. So think about those things when shaitan comes and tells you you're better than somebody else. Because first of all, most other Muslims, you have no idea at all if they've committed a sin or not, because you haven't seen it. Most of you, I've never spent time with you. I don't know if you've committed sins. I know what I've done, but I cannot speak on your behalf. So my knowledge with God is absolute about what I've done, but I have a doubt about what you've done. Maybe you've never done a wrong. Maybe you have, maybe you haven't. I know what I've done. Therefore, each and every one of you, you know what you've done with Allah, and you know what you're held accountable for. So when someone praises you, if they're ignorant enough to do so and harm your status, if they praise you, immediately tell yourself, oh my Lord, they praise me from the outward, but you know my inward, and I know my inward. They judge me for what they've seen of me publicly, but you know me privately, and you know my thoughts, and you know what I've done. So put away people's praises. You know, whether people praise you or blame you, it should be the same for you. It's all about what Allah sees in you, right? In the end, it's all about what God sees in you. As they say in America, only God will judge me. Only God can judge me. That's true. But most people usually use that line when they're criticized about something. Hey, why are you doing that thing wrong? Why are you telling me what to do? Only God can judge me. You can't judge me. Right? No one ever says that line when you say, MashaAllah, you're such a good, pious person. Only God can judge me. You can't judge me. No one will say. Say, oh, thank you very much. Thank you. If he's a Muslim, they'll say, Jazakallah khair, shukran, alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah, it's from Allah. They won't deny it. Our beloved teacher, you see him often, Sheikh Saleh. You praise him, he says, astaghfirullah, a'udhu billah. Stop. Not worthy. Not even a single word. And then there's two other problems with praise of others. So we're still on the topic of praising others, if there is no harm. He says that there's other two things happening. The one being praised may also become arrogant and satisfied with himself. We talked about that. And whoever becomes vain about himself will reduce his actions. So if you start to think you're a good, pious Muslim, you won't no longer do any good. It's like many of you. You won't push yourself no longer to memorize more surahs or learn more. You'll start to think, well, I'm okay. I already learned a lot. No, you didn't. We don't know anything. All of us. Okay? So, you have to be very, very careful. The only one who will be serious about worship is the person that sees himself as being deficient. So, if everyone is saying good things about him, he may start to think that he has achieved a high status, and this is very, very difficult. They have an exception to this, guys, and usually they say the exception is if somebody righteous praises you. But usually, who's righteous these days, right? And if the righteous praise you, they say it's praise of God. But if the fasiq praise you, it's just delusion, right? People praise me all the time, a'udhu billah. And some like to blame me all the time, but I should love the blame more than the good, right? You should love blame more than you love praise. Because the scholars, they say you should listen to those that blame you, you'll improve more, right? If somebody tells you, sister, you're mashallah such a good Muslim, but they're probably lying. They don't want to tell you the truth, right? You know, sometimes you have these movies where they drink like some potion, they can only tell the truth, right? And then they can't lie. Or, you know, just for the day, they're unable to lie. Imagine if a Muslim does that, right? Drink something for the day, he cannot lie. And he sees one guy, he's like, you know, you're a bad guy. Never come to the masjid, I never see you. You know, goes up to his sister and says, you need to do this, this, and this, and that. Just straight truth. Most people won't do that. Sayyidina Umar used to make a dua, may Allah bless and forgive the one who points out my wrong actions. So he used to love that. If somebody went up to him and said, Umar, you're not doing this, this, and that, he said, may Allah bless him, because he's making me a better person, right? In the end, you're making someone a better person. Most people do not like to be blamed of what they don't like. Like I gave a strong khutbah today, most people don't want to hear it. But I'm talking to myself. Whoever wants to listen can listen. Some might feel, why are you telling us that? Well, it's better I tell you than you get shocked on the day of judgment, right? It's better you hear the truth. It's like our teacher Sheikh Saleh, he mentioned, a person who has cancer, the doctor doesn't go up and try to beat around the bush or flatter them. They don't come up to him and the person says, am I going to die, doc? And they say, no, you're okay. Don't worry about it. Would they do that? They'll never do that. They'll say, I'm sorry, I have some bad news for you. You have cancer and it looks like you'll die in a few months. They'll tell them the truth. Most Muslims don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear, look, you're in bad shape. You got to learn your religion. You got to learn what you're obligated to do or you're going to be in trouble. Most people don't like to hear that, and most don't like to tell you that. And they say, whoever just keeps praising you and never tells you the truth has committed treachery against you. So yes, somebody can praise you, but sometimes they can also remind you of what you need to do. Okay? So consider that, and inshallah, be wary of that. And other scholars, they mention there's a lot of things about praising, that if somebody praises you, there's du'as you can read. Oh Allah, forgive me for what they don't know about me. Make a reality what they say about me. Okay? So there's a dua you can read. This dua is not necessarily related from the Prophet ﷺ, but it's what the Salihin, the righteous, mention. They say, Allahumma haqqiq ma yaqulun. Oh Allah, make a reality what they say about me. So if someone says, MashaAllah, you're such a good Muslim, say, Ameen, Ameen. I don't believe it, but I'm saying Ameen. Maybe one day I will be. So that's one way you can treat it. Someone praises you, say Ameen. Don't say, Alhamdulillah, thank you. MashaAllah. Only you know me. All these other people are messed up. Thank you. MashaAllah. May Allah bless you for the truthful words that you just mentioned. Right? So no. Haqiq ma yaqulun. Make a reality what they say about me. May Allah make us like that. Forgive me for what they don't know about me. Forgive me for what they don't know about me. Imam al-Ghazali, one of our greatest scholars, he mentions that because Allah is the Satir, the one who veils your wrongs, people come up to you and they praise you and they say good things about you. Had your sins been manifest to them, they would have ran away from you. They would have ran away from you. He said, imagine you take like your sins on a tray and you walk around and show people, display. He said, what would people do if the actions were not hidden from people? They would run from you, right? Your ghiba, your namima, your arrogance, your lying, all these sins you've committed. Someone sees you would say, A'udhu billah. Just run from you. But Allah has hidden those things from humanity. Allah only brought out your good and manifested that. It's one of the names of the divine names of Allah. The one who brings out the good and overlooks your wrongs, which is what human beings should do. That's why we're told, don't spy, don't backbite, don't have suspicion, because that's looking at the bad qualities of people. Even if the people are actually doing those wrongs, you're supposed to avoid it and just overlook it, because you got your own wrongs. They say whoever is very consumed with their own wrong doesn't see the wrongs of others, inshallah they'll be pardoned for their wrong. They're blessed people. They're too concerned with their own wrong. Someone comes to you and says, you know what so-and-so did? Say, I'm busy with what I'm doing and my own wrongs. Please don't tell me what other people are doing. So this is very, very dangerous. So what do we learn from this? Do not praise people. Prophet ﷺ once said something about Ibn Umar. He said, what a good man he is, were he to get up for the night prayer. Were he to get up for the night prayer. So what he did there is, he didn't just praise him saying, Ni'ma Rajul, what a beautiful, nice man. But he said, what a good man had he done this. So it encouraged Ibn Umar to actually start getting up for night prayer and increase them in righteous action. So anytime someone can give you a word of advice that leads you to being a better Muslim, that leads you to better action, that leads you to doing more good things, then that would be good for you. But not if it does the opposite. They praise you, they say good things about you, and as a result, you lower your good actions because you think you're special. Now you think you're special. Now you think you're better than others. One of the blessed teachers, Sheikh Muhammad Yaqubi, he gave his first khutbah when he was going back to confidence and esteem. He was 13 years old, one of the big mosques of Damascus. 13. He was giving his first khutbah, maybe 14. And he went up there and he was very nervous. And his dad told him, have confidence that you have a lot of knowledge and go give this khutbah. So he went and did that. But his dad kind of saw that he got a little too comfortable and maybe he might get some arrogance. The next week he told him, the next time he gave khutbah, if you feel that you're better than a single person in this mosque, you don't deserve to go up there to give the khutbah. If you don't see every single person in this place better than you, you're not deserving to give khutbah. So see what he taught him. Yes, you have confidence to do something and you believe it, but inwardly, you believe you can do it, but do not ever think you're better than a single person. Always have that fear. Always be humble and bring yourself. And know that all the good that you do anyway is from Allah, not you. It's Allah allowing you to do those good things. You're not doing anything your own self. Tawfiq is from Allah. Now, we'll end with one more point. Well, one more thing, which is by praising others, amongst the things that could occur that he brings up is hypocrisy and lying. Because a lot of times when you start to praise people, you start to say a lie in the praise, right? So you'll start to praise somebody, and then within that praise, you're going to add lines that aren't true. So that's another reason why you shouldn't praise somebody. You'll probably say something that's not true. And saying something that's not true is kidhib. It's a lie. And that's haram, because Allah told us not to tell lies. Number two, it could be hypocrisy because you really don't mean it. Most people that praise others, they don't really mean it, right? So they'll start to praise somebody, but deep down they don't really believe it. How many times do you see that people say something good about somebody, when they go to the side, they're like, God, I can't stand that person. Can't believe I have to say all this stuff about him, right? So hypocrisy and lying. And the next line, we'll do one more line. It is prohibited. ذكر الكرامات إذ لم يؤذن فيه له أجر إذا لم تكن. It is prohibited to mention a miracle if one has not been given permission. It is even worse if what is mentioned never occurred. So this talks about sometimes the awliya of Allah, they have miracles that are given to them. And if someone were to tell you of that miracle, but then they didn't give you permission to tell anybody about it, then this is prohibited to tell anybody about it. And if it didn't occur and they just lied that they did something they didn't do, that's even worse. So that kind of goes back to secrets, right? It goes back to secrets. Somebody did something occurred to somebody, and then they told somebody, but then they told them, please don't tell anybody. So usually if I hear something from my sheikh, then I'll ask him, can I tell so-and-so? And if he says yes, then I'll tell him. And if he says no, then I won't say. This is an issue in Aqidah too. There are many ignorant Muslims that do not believe in karamat al-awliya. They don't believe that awliya have miracles. And this, they reject the stories mentioned in the Quran. Like when the story of Sulaiman alayhi salam, when the person who had knowledge of the book was able to bring the throne of Queen Sheba over to Palestine, the region where Sulaiman was, faster than the blink of an eye. You cannot travel that fast. The fastest plane cannot go from Yemen to Sham in blink of an eye, right? Because there was a jinn who told Sulaiman, I can bring it to you faster than you can get up from your chair and sit back down. Like I can bring it faster. And another person who was there, he's not a jinn. This person was not a jinn. His name was Asif, I think, in the Tafasir. And what did he say? He said, I can bring you the throne of Queen Sheba from Yemen here to Sham faster than your eyesight can return to you. Meaning, I assume, faster than the speed of light. And this is an incredible verse to me personally in the Quran. As it mentions an actual speed, faster than your eyesight returns. What is that? Do you know how fast that is? 186,000 miles a second. That's the speed I'm looking at all of you. All of you are reaching me at 186,000 miles a second. There's the speed. That's why when you look at the sun, it's 8 minutes old, because that's how long it takes for the sunlight to reach us. So then he brought him that, and how was that possible? The person was not a prophet. Asif was not. He wasn't a jinn. How is he able to bring the whole throne of Sheba over to Sham in a blink of an eye? That and many, many other stories are proofs the ulama mention about the stories of Karamatul Awliya, the proofs of the miracles of the saints. And this also was in Tahawi when we covered it, if you recall. Karamatul Awliya Haq. It's in the Ibrahim Laqani's text, it's in Tahawi's text. No person except a very ignorant person will reject that. We believe in all of that. And we believe also miracles that are, in a sense, miracles, but they're not good for you. They take you astray more. And that is, for example, shaitan not dying, constantly being alive in the body to do waswasa. And also the Dajjal in the end of time was able to do certain things that break the laws of physics that also occur in the end of time. All these things are all proofs that there are times that normal things could break out. You can do miracles, you can break out of the normal patterns, but that doesn't always mean it's a good thing. Sometimes it's a bad thing. It doesn't prove anything. So miracles are sometimes given to bad people, sometimes they're given to good people. When they're given to a prophet, it's called mu'jiza. When they're given to a wali, it's called karama. When they're given to somebody righteous, it's called aun. When they're given to somebody bad, it's called istidraj. Right? So there's different levels of it. So do not mention the karama of a wali. Good luck to finding in this time a wali and one who has an actual karama other than lies that are spread a lot of times. But do not mention them unless you have permission. So inshallah with that, we'll stop for this week's what we're going to cover. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi.